one has to ask themselves, when do they feel like being reactionary if they need to be reactionary? Or more succinctly, when does one feel like they ought to be commenting on what's going on that everybody wants to talk about and make an effect upon the world? And of course, I am speaking about the scenario over there in the Middle East. Because I tell you what, that region has been a nonstop headache since the 90s. Okay? We're talking, this is, we've been dealing with the state of the Middle East like this for 30 some odd years. Some people suggest that Iran, has a lot to do with it, and dude, nothing seems to have anything to do with anything. Other than there's a whole lot of shit that they seem to see in the Middle East going on that seems to be obfuscated to the West, to thus make it a cut and dry, black and white, two-dimensional, good versus evil scenario, which is exactly the way the media likes to sell a thing. And why does that work? It's because of the world established in the head of these people that's projected onto you. These crazy fucking people on CNN. And then when you call CNN on their bullshit in front of someone, who listens to CNN or something like that. And it's not even about fucking CNN. People don't even really talk about, quote, CNN anymore because we're realizing it's more nuanced than that as far as all that's concerned, but it's also part of the reason why we go with it. Is that, like, CNN lives within an entire narrative. They go over their notes about what's going on in the world. They say whatever's going on in the world, this is the way that it's going on in the world. And they tell you the way that it goes down. It's not that there was some sort of massacre in the Gaza Strip or whatever. It's just like, this is the way the massacre went down. Right? So, definitely something happened. We're gonna completely invent the way that it happened. Meaning they're gonna completely reverse construct everything that led up to it to determine everything they want to do after. Are both sides guilty of this? I'm sure they are. But it's a question of does the historical facts fucking matter to the person whom you're trying to convince that the argument of one party's justification for violence or not matters? And people have different fucking reasons why they can accept or reject certain ways of people as such. What's up, Luke China? And so the way people talk about there's two sides to a story, and then there's the truth as the third side of the story, like three sides every story, your side, my side, and the truth, right? I think that there's a pattern within that fact that can be analyzed, some sort of a universal pattern that's going to help you with all manner of the psychological operation. Now, because there's a psyop doesn't mean that there wasn't a real whatever. And the world needs to stop jumping down the throats of people that talk about psyops like they didn't happen. That needs to go away. That has done nobody any good. And it's time that we evolve past that and stop having such faith in other people making your arguments for you. You're just gonna have to hit it. You're just gonna have to hit it and hit it hard. Say it as it is, and look, if I've come to understand anything, it's like people don't pay attention anyway. So like, I bet you $1 million you're worried about telling the truth. You're worried about it because you're worried that somebody in the real world is going to catch on, right? And I say the real world as in, you know, the normie part of life that you probably exist in just like I do. Let me tell you something. If they can hear you, they're not going to assume anything about you like that. Sorry. Okay. So they don't want to look anyway. It doesn't matter how much they like you. And anybody can rationalize about anyone that they don't know what they're fucking talking about anyway. Right? You know, so, you know, because if that person knew what they were talking about, well, they wouldn't be in my world. They'd be over there. They'd be making, you know, big money, like as a teacher or something like that. Obviously. Right? So you don't, right? This world that you're talking about, this world is largely reinforced by women. It's when the women hear these things, right? The emotional impulse, none of that works on men. What does work on men is what the pussy wants. And men will do, think, believe, say, refrain in the pursuit of what women want and to not make the women upset. And unfortunately, continue to let the world build on the rot of its illusion. That's what's happening. I guarantee you, in the back of everybody's head who's a guy who's got this kind of cognitive dissonance, there's some fucking woman that they want to agree with them, that they want to please, someone that they have bound their interests to. Just like a woman will get into something that a guy's into when she's in love with them, right? You know, like I know chicks, you know, I've had chicks, like, they seemed like they were super interested into things I was interested in for, you know, the time being that we were dating. And then when we broke, all of that became disinteresting to them. Didn't care. Right? So that's all, honestly, that's all a lie as far as I'm concerned. That's all a fucking lie. So that's part of the problem with the world, right? Because nobody wants to do the right thing and fucking make some bitches that fucking are delusional upset. because everybody wants to make all these fucking women happy, and the women are all like, yeah, fuck whoever's causing the suffering of the people that are suffering, right? And so now you have a designation of people who are suffering and the perpetrators of suffering, and they will take those lines, and then they will go from being peace and love to, what the fuck are you standing there for, Bob? Go put on your fucking helmet and kill them. Right? It's just like, you know, you'll see them turn into warhawks. You'll see the women turn into warhawks and screech a battle cry as they, you know, force their men and, you know, their husbands and their children off to war until they stop yelling and screaming about the horror show that they just heard about in the gossip chain that they can't tell is a gossip chain because of the convincing presentation that went along with this grotesque show and tell display of a circus that gives us our feed of events happening completely outside of our fucking field of influence in the first place, and we have to fucking put together the resources and the time to assemble, to dislocate ourselves, to put ourselves in the world where we were told all that happened to interfere, or otherwise the women are just never going to care about us ever again, and we will be lost and destroyed in this world. I really think that that's what the fuck is going on with the men that fucking have to react to this shit. That's what I think's going on. All right? Because someone knows that if they don't react according to the beliefs that they have been telling their fucking wife that they have for a bazillion fucking years because they'd rather avoid fucking conflict, then we wouldn't fucking be in this goddamn position. And I'm speaking almost like it's a conservative thing. I'm talking about any single one of these particular kind of fucking relationships. Whether you're just living with your fucking sexually active partner or whatever. And sometimes I wonder, since COVID, when somebody says we're fucking getting ready to deploy, we're deploying, and deploying who? Who's in the military anymore? Like, I know there's plenty of, like, there's a lot of people, but, like, you just, like, there's no way there's a lot of people in the military. And there's no way that, the way our current culture is, that a draft would go according to plan, right? You know, you would just, like, you know, like, if you're being drafted, you're being sent to die, right? Back in the day, if you were being drafted, you weren't being sent to die. I mean, yeah, you were likely to die because you're going front lines and all that bullshit, right? But it was just like, they knew they were bringing in able-bodied men. We don't have able-bodied men. We've got fucking drug addicts. We got food addicts, morbidly obese people. We got people that don't know anything about running or whatever. We've entirely killed a culture that possibly fucking could be warriors. And maybe the draft ended after the 60s because, you know, we were creating that trend. And then our forces have been dwindling ever since. Right, of course, there's competency, the mental faculty. Listen, you know, now at 43, I'm, you know, doing what I do. Now I'm able-bodied and I'm competent. Reason I can still be, maybe I'm not super competent, but I'm pretty competent. My point is that, like, you know, we're talking about, like, me, right? Me now. And we're not interested. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'd rather, like, you know, get shot in the head than obey a draft order. Right? I don't want to do those things or be those things, and I think I'm willing to die about it. But I am the able-bodied man, and they can't have me. There's plenty of people in this. This is what I love about what's going on right now, is that there's a tremendous amount of amazing people that they're going to build an alternative to the dying world. Don't wait for them to show up to be in the dying world and to transform the dying world into a better place. They want you to keep looking at their dying world and looking at it like everything's getting worse. It's getting worse for them, and it's going to get worse to people who have terrible attachments. And it's going to be hard to watch for those of us invested. But from this point forward, I think we will not be subject to anything we don't give any level of our consent to. So I could be wrong about that, but I am shocked, that perhaps because of it all. Obviously because of it all, I suppose. All right. I got things to do. I'll catch you guys later.